just knowing your purpose, it kind of gives you a lot of reassurance. It made me less anxious because
Mhm.
I spent less time thinking about, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. And so instead of just thinking about that the whole time, I I started to work towards my purpose. So I know for me, like I'm really into creating things. And like in the program that we took,
Mhm.
I remember that we focused on some of the talents that we've been given and some things that we're good at. And so I know from that, I was like, okay, I'm pretty good at creating things and I like to help people out. So I was like, okay, well, just trying to relate that to what I learned in school and some of the things that I'm doing now, it kind of inspired me to pursue something in the future, which is product design. Like I'm really interested in designing inclusive products because I like to help people.
Yeah.
So now I'm aiming for that. Like now there's kind of, I don't know what this path is going to look
Yeah.
like in detail, but there's a path. There's some
Hmm.
direction or like a North Star, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Major Pane Podcast, the only podcast crafted to guide men like you on unraveling your uniqueness to transform the world around you. If you're a lady joining us, feel comfortable to listen as we hope women learn how to build better men through the golden nuggets we will be sharing and learning. Joining me today is Ashley Basco. She is a recent business graduate from Wilfrid Laurier University, currently working in marketing and venture capital in Toronto. Ashley was raised in an immigrant household, although she was born in Canada. She was very much involved in the Filipino community, where she served as the president of the Laurier Filipino Student Association. Ashley has also completed the Define Your Purpose program that was pretty much last year, November. And she's joining me today as she continues to live out her purpose every day. Welcome, Ashley.
Hello, Paul. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, so tell me, how's your new year been so far? What's been happening? How's 2022 treating you?
Definitely a lot of goal setting because it's a new year. You're just striving to be better. So just a lot of that, organizing a lot of things, lots of plans, but also trying to unwind before work starts kicking in again. Just that stuff. How about you?
Yeah, well, I would say it's been great. I had to rest. I think that was at the end of last year. I took some time to rest, and it's been really great because I had a lot of time to like strategize, come up with new content, new concept, and also I just feel re-energized because I had deep reflection and I was able to see a couple of things that I can do better. And I would say, just rested my mind because honestly, woof, it's been a busy 2021. And now I'm just like, just starting it cool. And I love the vibe so far. Hmm.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I feel like 2020 was definitely a really hectic year. So that time that we had to be offline was much needed.
Yeah, I used to say 2021 is that one year that has 5 years inside of it.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely experienced like 10 midlife crises in that. So felt that.
Yeah, but surprisingly, it's so amazing that yes, we went through 2021 with all the hassle, bustle, and everything, but there were a lot of things that happened to you. I believe that I can say we're just wow because I follow you on IG. I mean, we talk, and I'm just like wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Now, I'm glad also, and I feel like you just one of those people who I can say you clearly know your purpose in life right now. And yes, I can say because you attended the Major Pane Define Your Purpose program, but you know, it gives me so much joy to see that, when someone goes through the program, they don't just go through the program for going sake, but they are able to practicalize the things that they learned through the program. So, and I know that outside my program, you've also been on a search on your purpose, which makes me want to ask you, how were you able to find your purpose?
I think for me, I still remember I had this asked in an interview that I had. It's like, oh, what motivates you, or what's your purpose in life? And like, I guess before that, it's also realizing what I've been given the opportunity to do, and like the gifts that I have been blessed with, because, as a believer, we're both Christian. We are given gifts from God. So it's just realizing that. But then I don't know. When I think about my purpose, the first thing that comes to my mind is my family. And, I definitely used to be one of those people that used to only do things just so my parents could praise me. But I think at the end of the day, like, I want to be able to become successful and do or live out my purpose to take care of my family, because it's just one of the things that I really value. So yeah, sometimes your parents will place these expectations, let's
Mhm.
say, in the Filipino culture, we're going to talk about stereotypes here because, like, I'm not the president of the Filipino club anymore, but I just learned some stereotypes. And there's this
Mhm.
stereotype that you should be a nurse, like Filipinos. You're
Mhm.
probably a nurse, so you're probably going to go into healthcare.
Mhm.
But, as you can tell from like, from what people can tell, I'm definitely not a nurse. Like, I
Mhm.
work in business and venture capital, definitely different. I don't know if my family still gets what I'm doing, but all they know is that I'm happy. Um, but I think at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to make your parents happy and be proud, but you also want to live out your purpose and do the things that you really enjoy. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the day, they're going to be happy for you.
Oh, now that is a very great insight. And I really like how you put it, because I believe that a lot of people listening right here, especially like those from Africa or the Philippines, or even Filipinos or Africans here in Canada or wherever they are listening from,
Hmm.
I can see that connection, especially when parents they've paid your school fees, they've invested so much in you, and then what, it's more like they're expecting so much back from you. And what they're
Hmm.
expecting back is more like, oh, I want you to be this, I want you to be that. Of course, they just have those stereotypical like ideology that is only specific industries that pay more. And because they want you not just only for you to make more money or to do better, but so that they can say, my son or my daughter is a doctor, is a lawyer.
Yeah, bragging rights.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I understand that some people listening to this are in that kind of category. So, what if your purpose doesn't really align to what your parents expect, or they are not seeing those quick wins, or they are not seeing those victories already?
Definitely think that you could follow your life purpose, even if your parents might not think the same or like approve of it, because,
Mm-hmm.
they were raised in different times.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for me, I'm very grateful that my parents let me study what I wanted to do, like business, definitely not healthcare. Um, and I think they're happy. Like, I think I'm fulfilling my purpose, even though it's not something that my parents had in mind originally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm doing okay for a 22-year-old right now. I mean, I'm definitely still learning, but it's all a process, to be honest.
What is your purpose?
Well, I'm going to put it very bluntly and say my purpose in life is to help people. And I genuinely think it is, because I think in my life, I feel like I've always been inclined to help people.
Mhm.
So, an example is just helping people through what I've been through and like sharing the knowledge that I have. I'm not saying that I'm some next wise old turtle like preaching, but
Master Shifu.
yeah, I'm not Master Shifu, man, or Master Oogway, but I definitely love to help people and kind of just now help them navigate anything. So I know for like the past year, I came into your work, Springboard, and gave a session on personal branding and its importance and why networking is very important. And I know even throughout university or when I was in high school, even I was always a student ambassador because I love talking and sharing my experience with people and, answering questions that people my age or people that are about to transition into what I'm going through. Like, I just like sharing my experience with them and being like, hey, like just giving them a little, I guess if it's a map, giving them pointers and, helping them navigate their way through things. And then I also want to help people through building inclusive products. Like, I want to help a tech company build something that, the users will actually be able to use.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it's very important. Like, not gonna lie, ever since I took this UX class when I was in university, I've been thinking about how can this be more inclusive? Like, literally not me struggling opening a granola bar or anything. I'm just like, how can this be better? And so, yeah, I feel like my purpose in life is to help people. Yeah, like I like creating things,
Awesome.
making it functional.
Do you know one reason I reached out to you was because I clearly remember the first time, like even how we met, right? Through the Bible study group. And then you reached out to me through LinkedIn and you told me like you're very good in social media marketing. So you networked with me at that point. And I was just, wow, like this girl, she is not only just good at social media marketing and networking, but she really knows how to reach out. Like you really know how to help people. That's it. And you told me that which really amazed me too, because you were literally, we had calls, we had conversations, the social media calendar thing, you brainstormed with me and I was like, oh my God, like if say Major Pane International had gotten to a level where I'm like, Ashley, maybe I'll just give you a position and put you on a salary, or I bring you in as a consultant, I would do just that because you had the exact skills I need. And I would say anyone listening to this podcast, if you need someone to revamp your social media ideas, Ashley is the go-to for real. Lots of the Major Pane concepts.
Thank you. I'm very
You're
flattered.
welcome. A lot of the Major Pane concepts, I mean, it came from the conversations we had. I don't know if you remember those calls and all those things, but again, and that was why I reached out to you, because I figured out that you had the skill sets and mindset and perspective that my clients needed at that point, especially as they're new in the whole digital marketing sector and they are just fresh into the sector. They need to network, they need to navigate their way out. And that was why I reached out to you. And the other thing again that made me reach out to you is your mindset. And I want to ask you, why are you the way you are?
That's a really good question. And honestly, if my brother's listening to this, his head's going to get so big because he's going to be like, I'm the reason. Well, I'm not going to lie. Like, he actually is the reason why I think the way I think. And sometimes people might be like, that's a bit too extreme. But like, girl, it's all my brother. Like, honestly, it's because, well, I didn't really grow up with a babysitter or anything. It was my brother who was raising me basically until he moved out for university.
Wow.
So I guess like my brother, whatever he'd learn in university at the time, he's 4 years older, mind you, he'd be imposing it on me. He's like, oh, you need to do this and that. So when I was in high school, I was already reading about digital marketing and people were like, why are you reading that? Shouldn't you be like partying or something? I'm like, no, I need to do this apparently. Like a lot of people, I joke around and say my brother's a drill sergeant, but honestly, like I wouldn't be the person I am today without him because honestly, like a lot of people don't have the guidance that I had when I was growing up. So, not everyone has a drill sergeant brother to tell them what to do because like, I don't know. There are just some things that I was able to realize at a much earlier age, thanks to him.
Wow. And thanks to him too, which makes me want to say why the whole idea about unique masculinity, which I'm advocating for, is very essential and needed right now. Because as a unique man, not only are you influencing the community, but you're also influencing the first component, which is the family, your siblings. And you are right now an evidence that unique masculinity is very essential. And this is the result. That's you. Like, you being the way you are is so awesome. And
if you want a younger sister who's like me, I don't know if you want that, but unique masculinity.
Yeah, so it's great. It's really great. I admire that, and kudos to your brother, honestly, for investing in you. And I would say to others who are listening to this podcast right now, if you have a younger sister or you have a friend who is a female, truth is you have a lot of influence in her life that you might not even know. And just take a look at how Ashley and I have been able to optimize our friendship in such a unique way that we are able to bring out the best out of each other, empowering ourselves, encouraging each other, even praying for each other. And that's one component that I feel like many people should start, emulating, or even at least practice it, because it just does the society a lot better good. This makes me also want to ask you, what were the challenges you faced in the process of finding your purpose, and how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Well, I was raised in an immigrant household, so my parents came to Canada with basically nothing. They managed and they were able to provide for my brother and I, which we're very thankful for. But I think just seeing my parents struggle, and it was definitely something that motivated me to be better. I was like, okay, well, I can't just sit around and I don't know, do whatever I want, like, dilly-dallying. To be honest, I've been working since I was in high school because I always felt the need to be better. But again, some people don't have the driving force in them to do this, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I guess everyone is very different, but I guess just seeing my parents struggle, and also as a person of color, you face discrimination, and sometimes you face these obstacles that not many people think about or talk about. And it's not a victim mindset, because clearly it does happen. Like, I see it in the industry all the time. There are people that lack access to funding when it comes to their businesses because of who they are. So experiencing the struggle really motivated me to find my purpose in life and really set out and be an ambitious person.
Makes sense. What you're saying just tied into most of the conversations I've had with other people, and even some of the episodes I've put out there, that you can find your purpose through pain. Suffering equal to, suffering teaches you a lot of things in life and all those things. And I really like how you drew motivation from your parents' experience, because either which way, we all belong to one family or the other. Like, everyone has their story, and I believe each story just comes with its own uniqueness that kind of gives us that avenue to learn as much things as possible. And it's not up to us to decide, are we going to use this moment to learn, or are we just going to swipe it and not learn? Whatever decision we make at that moment, we will still face it in the future. And it's now, have you been prepared to face this, or have you not been prepared? And if it's yes, you've been prepared, so you now have the skill set, mindset to, work through those challenges. And if the person is not prepared, and then it's now another opportunity again to say, okay, now is the time, you have to still learn or not,
Yeah, you have to learn, Yeah, I think that's definitely why I took your course to find your purpose, because at least for me, with my personality type, I've been really into the Myers-Briggs test, and I am an INFJ. Basically, I get very anxious when I don't know what's coming, and I get very anxious about things that I can't control. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do, what I can control, is how much work I put in to my work, my studies, and I guess my mindset as well, because I really do care about mental health, and what you're feeding your brain will obviously show physically.
A lot of young people right now, they are really going through purpose anxiety, wherein they don't know their purpose and they are struggling to identify their purpose. You just come in from the university environment and you see a lot of millennials and everything. What do you have to say in regards to how do millennials view the whole life purpose thing? Like, do you feel they're interested to know it, or do you feel like, nah, that's just too, it's not essential?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think a lot of people are young people. They don't understand that importance of knowing your purpose. But I think on top of that, it's also the pressure of knowing your purpose that makes these young people very anxious. Like I have some friends that are about to graduate and they're experiencing the nerves of graduating because you're going to start adulting, you're going to have to start working. And it's also that imposter syndrome that you're faced with when you're in a university environment because sometimes you're in a very competitive program and you see everyone getting job offers left and right and you're
Mhm.
out here like, oh my gosh, like I still don't know what I'm going to do. So I think there's that imposter syndrome and then not knowing what you want to do. So a lot of people oftentimes they'll start to strive for things that everyone else is doing just to think,
Yeah.
oh, like maybe it worked for them, so why won't it work for me? But then a few years later, like months even, they start to realize that it's something that they don't really like.
Mhm. What I can hear is more like, say, for young people to know their purpose, it kind of helps them, it navigates them into peculiar careers that it's not just about everyone is going into this. That means I should go into this. If they know their purpose, it kind of highlights the right career or the right place for them. Would you say those are some of the perks or advantage or importance of knowing one's purpose?
Yeah, I definitely say it is because then you feel like you're not facing a midlife crisis at 21, being like, what am I doing? I feel like I screwed up.
Mhm.
And then you get that anxiety and maybe even depression because you feel like well, there's often that misconception that we're running out of time,
Yeah.
especially now. Like people, I feel like for young people, we don't realize that we have many more years ahead of us to
Mhm.
accomplish what we want to do. So we put all this pressure on ourselves to do these things by this age, or I need to be able to be making six figures by 23. Like,
From your experience, especially as you are working for someone at the moment,
mhm.
what do you say are also the perks of working for someone versus starting your own business? What do you think?
Well, I guess let's talk about the pros first,
Mhm.
especially for working for someone. So, one, you often have someone to learn from. And I think now, especially at our age, it's very crucial for us to learn. We literally just got out of school, maybe like 2 to 3 years of internship experience.
Yeah.
Like, we might not be as knowledgeable as we think we are, especially with the books. So, like, we're not books, like, maybe we're book smart, but are you real world smart, if that makes any sense?
Mhm.
So it's nice working for someone because you get to get the mentorship. And also when you work for other people, like so I work in the venture capital world, and there are just a lot of people. I'm surrounded by all these very bright people, and I get to learn about the small things that they do on the day to day. And it also so then it starts to kind of influence me and then I end up learning way more than I would have if I was just alone.
Yeah.
But I think owning your own business does have its pros as well because I don't know, there's just something about entrepreneurs. They have this thing inside, like this bright fire in them
Yeah.
that just makes them so different. Like the
Mhm.
way they think and talk, or well, not necessarily talk, but just the way they think and act, it's so different from
Mhm.
other people. Like at least from my experience, but these people tend to be much more resilient. Like they face a lot of failure, but then in the end, that's what makes them very resilient and
Yeah.
hardworking.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to manage people if you're working for yourself. Um, Also, if you're working for yourself, if it's a one-man team, you learn how to do sales and negotiation and just
Mhm.
you're working on your emotional intelligence. So I
Yeah.
think it's very, very useful if you're like an entrepreneur. Makes you more empathetical if that, or
Yeah.
you develop a lot of empathy for other people as well.
Yeah, I see. No, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense, especially when you look at the pros. But what about the cons itself?
The cons.
Yeah.
For the cons in general, sometimes some workplaces might not have the flexibility that you need. Like I'm
Mhm.
very fortunate to have a pretty flexible workplace,
That's
but I know
true.
some people that are really grinding it out, like 12-hour days working overtime, and they're really, really tired. So I guess there's that. And I guess working for other people or working in a bigger organization or corporate environment, especially, there's just sometimes there's the lack of innovation I sense sometimes because a lot of like let's say you come up with an idea, it's very hard for the organization to implement it because it has to
Yeah.
go through so many people to the point where it's like just forget it.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. But whereas if you're working for yourself, you could think about it and be like, okay, maybe I could actually implement it
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to go through 10 or 15 people.
That's true. Yeah, very true. I've personally witnessed moments like that, and it can be very frustrating. But I feel like one thing that I would say that kind of helped me, even when I was done with school, was that while looking for jobs, I was also just working on my own, say, business idea at that time, which was digital marketing. And I just kept working so hard on that. But same time, I was trying to use that to look for a job such that I can learn more from the corporate environment. And that's where I use it to feed my business. And that's the concept I used. And I would say I'm still using it at this moment. And honestly, it's working so well because some people are just not patient enough. You've
Yeah,
planted the seed, you've done everything that is needed. All you just need is time. But then because they are such in a hurry, they then leave that place and go elsewhere. And that tree ends up growing. And because they're not there to nurture or maintain it, it just dies off, you
that's a
know?
really good analogy. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah, and
me.
sometimes the people that I work with, because they're older than me, they're like, you need to relax. You're
Mhm,
literally 22. What are you like? It's fine.
mhm.
But yeah, there's sometimes we feel like it's a race. And sometimes, like, especially for young people, we'll feel like it's a sprint at this point instead of a
Yeah.
marathon. Because
Mhm,
again, we're seeing all these people achieve all these things. And then we're like, well, what am I doing?
mhm.
I should probably be doing better. Like it's very toxic, but sometimes it's just what drives people.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, you know, one thing I really appreciate about you is that ownership, right? I like the fact that you take accountability. And I also noticed that that's something that a lot of young people are lacking these days, which has really affected relationships and also friendships in general, right? And speaking about relationships, I feel like, yeah, this is the part that everyone's ears, standing and all that. Sometimes,
Uh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, no, definitely.
there was this video I
Because
was,
apparently it's all about dating. I feel like nowadays people are either all about dating or they're like completely against it.
right? I mean, there was this snippet of a video I was watching wherein the girl got a call from a guy she met online and she was hoping that yeah, it's going to be a date or something. She dressed up looking so fly and everything, only for her to get there and she saw other women there. It was a multi-level marketing pitch. And the guy was like, yeah, take your seat. So this product are
Oh,
shipping
wow.
tomorrow.
That's actually, wow, scheming. People are scheming.
I'm telling you. So why I said so is because right now it seems like if someone wants to grab the attention of young people, they won't listen to you if you are giving them like all the hardcore facts and principle. But once you just sprinkle some relationship talks on top of it, they are like, oh yeah, so tell me what happened. Did they get together? It's like, oh yeah, they bought the product and they got together.
products. Oh my goodness.
All right. Now, speaking about relationship, career versus relationship, I want to get your insight or your perspective in regards to career versus relationship, because I would say I'm new to North America, 3 years into my life in North America. And honestly, coming in with this foreign kind of mindset and eye set, it's making me really see how career driven a lot of people are here. And speaking about career, of course, like everyone needs career, no doubt. But what would you say when it comes to your own observation about career and relationship? Do you think it's possible to have a good career and a good relationship in this day and age?
Well, I definitely believe that, because there's a lot of people that I know that are like living proof that, that actually works. But sometimes people will see that a career, like a relationship, can be an obstacle in your career. Like some people go to that extreme where it's either I really grind it out and I'm like hardcore working and making all this money, or I give my time to a girl or guy or whoever you're dating. Like sometimes people will see it as something that will distract you or kind of just make you stray away from your path or purpose in our case.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so to somebody who is thinking that career is going to be in the way of a healthy relationship, what do you have to say about that?
If you feel like a career will get in the way of your relationship, maybe, like, I guess, like, let's say this is from someone who's in a relationship standpoint. I guess it's just something that you need to talk about with your partner, and hopefully, like, if your partner really wants what's best for you, like, they'll kind of let you focus on your career, especially if you're young, because man, now we're planting those seeds to make this tree grow,
right? And
as much, at least from my standpoint, because I know that I'd choose career over relationship, because that's just what I've been taught, what I've been conditioned to do. And not gonna lie, some people think it's a bit extreme sometimes. Like I have some friends that are like, Ashley, you're a bit hardcore, like maybe you should go on a dating app, maybe you should go on a date. And I'm like, okay, listen, it's I swear I'm not that crazy, but I don't know, it's definitely something that you'd have to talk about with your partner. It's like, hey, like I have these goals that I want to achieve. And I guess when you're in a relationship, you want someone to be your ally, they'll understand why you need to do the things that you have to do.
Yeah.
But there's also that thing where you can't just neglect your partner, because what's the point of being in a relationship? At least from my point of view. So that's just my take on it.
Makes sense. At what point would you say I need to sacrifice my career for a relationship?
At what point? Oh man, such a tough question. Sacrifice my career for a relationship. I guess it's when you know that this person is the person that you want to marry. Well, at least for me, like, I'm still young, so maybe we're asking the wrong person, because I don't know when I'm going to, I don't know. But I think for me, it's like, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there for you to always get a job, or you're always going to find a job, even though some people might be like, okay, that's a very stressful process though. Like, are you sure you want to go through that again for this relationship? But I guess sometimes when you and your partner are both on the same page, like let's say, I need to move to Europe for work.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna drop your job right now, like here, to move with them? Because obviously, like, I don't know, you don't want to be that far from them for too long. At least for me, and I can't do that.
Right.
But I think you need to think about factors like, do you guys have a family together? Like, I don't want my kids to be growing up in two different households, because you want both parents to be there for them. You also need to think about how serious your relationship is. So are you going to drop everything for a girl you've met 1 month or you've been dating for 1 month, or are you going to drop everything for a girl you've been dating for 5 years?
Exactly.
You know, I guess it depends on the seriousness of this relationship and if you're willing to sacrifice things, because, you know, love is sacrificial.
Oh, look at that. Okay, that's great. Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
I really like your perspective and this items you just pointing out, because these are items I feel that many people should be talking about. And you also cut across just the main component, which is that communication piece. And I feel like that communication piece is maybe not really seen as very essential or vital. There's just lots of maybe assumptions rather than communication. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking about what exactly I want, or yeah, what the person wants, and gauging it with is does it meet with what this other person wants also? Because if the two wants are not merging or they are not aligned, right, it will then make one person suffer over the other, right? And
Be
that's
very
just
selfish.
exactly. So yeah, for those of you listening who are very career driven, and you might either find yourself in a relationship, or you might be like, I want to just chase career for now before I look into relationship. I feel like you should also have that conversation with yourself too, because you don't want to miss out some lovey-dovey opportunity, because there's just some people
Yeah.
you might not meet again, right?
Yeah, I guess. A lot of people, their ego gets in their way, which leads to a lack of communication. And sometimes, like, a lot of people actually struggle to communicate, believe it or not. Like in therapy, some people will be like, I can't communicate. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, they'll be telling their issues to their therapist. And then the therapist will simply be like, communicate. Like literally in sparkly words, sparkly letters, communicate. Like, I don't know, it's very important to communicate what you want and what you expect. And sometimes if you're new, like dating, if you're in this point of life where your career is very valuable, you need to communicate with the person what you value. Like if you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna put my career first sometimes, and I hope you'll understand that. And I guess for me, like my reasoning as to why I put my career over a relationship is because, like, down the line, I see relationships as something long term. You know, I don't date for heartbreak. You know, I don't think anyone does. But like, so that's why I tell this at the very beginning. I'm like, okay, like I just want to let you know that, you know, I'm pretty ambitious, kind of crazy about it. But the only reason why I'm putting my career is because I want to be able to provide for my loved one, or, you know, I don't want them to be alone. I don't want them to be the sole breadwinner of the household, because, you know, whatever I do now, my family in the future will be affected, which kind of ties back to the beginning where I talk about my family. Like, you know, my purpose, like I want to be able to support my family, like whether it be my parents now or my family in the future that I will have.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's okay for me to put my career in front of a relationship first, at least right now.
Yeah, I really admire that perspective when you say at least right now, because it makes it kind of sounds like, okay, say in the future you are likely to reassess career versus say marriage, and see which would maybe I don't want to say step back, but it's just more like which you would like how you just go about handling it. Because I've gotten to see a lot of married people who are so career driven that they kind of put marriage as secondary, and that now gets to bite them like seriously behind, and it comes with a lot of hurt and heartbreak and all those things, right? Okay, now you made mention about ego, that you feel like ego is what is hindering some people from speaking or communicating. What about fear? The fear of
Fear of
if I'm to
communicating
speak,
something.
this person is going to run away, or this person will likely
Mm.
not like me anymore.
Honestly, I feel like if you're scared of that, I don't know what to tell you. Like there's only one way to find out if they're gonna run away or not. And
Mhm,
it's just you can find out by communicating because even if you choose not to tell them something that might make them run away, who
mhm,
knows? Maybe if they find out like 5 years into the relationship and they're like, what the heck? You just dropped the
mhm.
bomb.
Yeah.
Like, that won't stop them from running away like in the
Mhm.
future. So it's very important to be honest and be open with these people. Got to keep it real.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Gotta keep it real. Woohoo! Yeah, that's really nice. So, actually, tell us about your podcast. I know you started a podcast, and I know that's also something in line with your purpose. So, how's that going on?
Oh man, you ask me this question all the time and I'm just But no, I appreciate you holding me accountable. Well, so I have this podcast called Chit-Chats with Ash, where I talk about topics that young adults go through, whether it be career stuff, because as you can tell, pretty career-driven person, but also just like things that you worry about, whether it be your love life,
Mhm.
maybe things that you want to make yourself better, like, just bettering yourself because there's just a lot of things that I realize that I talk with my friends and I'm like, man, I wish I got this down or I wish I was recording this. So sometimes I'll have my friends on and we'll talk about really fruitful discussions on life because I feel like a lot of people can relate right now about the
Yeah.
stuff we're going through.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. Yeah, I'm so glad that you started the podcast. I remember when it was just an idea and now it's reality. And honestly, I want you to know that I'm really looking forward to more episodes. I really enjoyed the chat we had. That's on, I think, was it your episode 2 or stuff like that?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was literally you were literally the second guest. So
awesome. Thank you so much for having me on that. Everyone listening, I would encourage you to check out Chit-Chat with Ash. I'm going to drop it in the description. And if you can click on the link, you would go straight to Ashley's podcast. And also, yeah, you can reach out to Ashley through her IG and Facebook. I'm also putting the link in the description. Ashley, thank you so much for taking out your amazing time to grace us with your presence. We really appreciate having you here today. Any last words before we wrap this up?
well, firstly, I'd like to say thanks for having me. It was an honor to be a guest of your podcast because, it was only almost a year ago where we switched places. You were a guest on my podcast, but now here we are, Major Pane. It's a thing.
Right?
So yeah, thank you for that. But I guess one last thing I'd want to say to those who are going through this transition in life, like if you're a young adult, it's just to trust the process, like whatever you're going through right now, it's all part of God's plan. Or,
Mhm.
it's like, sometimes it might not be the most ideal thing you want to be going through, but in the end, you're going to learn from it a lot.
Yeah.
So just trust the process, trust God's
Mhm.
plan. And I also highly recommend getting a mentor slash coach or anyone to help guide you through this journey because you shouldn't be doing it alone. A lot of people feel like, oh, I need to be the lone wolf to be successful. Not everyone will get me. But sometimes there's some people that can complement you, complement the gifts that you have
Yeah.
and bring out the best in you,
Mhm.
like AKA the friendship me and Paul have. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like obviously, like I said, like I had a brother to help guide me through the
Mhm.
things that I was going through, and I have a life coach, and I have a lot of mentors that I look up to because
Yeah.
there's just a lot of knowledge for them to share.
Mhm.
So yeah, I definitely recommend getting a coach slash
Oh,
mentor.
that's great. That's great. And yeah, for those of you who are very interested, I mean, you can check out my Define Your Purpose program, wherein we get in depth 8 weeks into looking at the various components about you, your personality, getting to know your passion, your interest, your talent, and also a lot of amazing things that you don't even recognize that you have within you. But then through that process, you get to look at yourself from a different perspective. And that just makes you go like, wow, 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 wow. That's all you just have to say. It gives me so much joy just working people through this, because doing that makes me feel good because I learn from people too. And Ashley is someone that's taught me a lot of great things. And I really want to say, Ashley, thank you for being who you are. Thank you for just being so unique. And thank you for living a purpose driven life. And also thank you for being an icon to other young ladies out there who I believe that are learning so much from you through this podcast and also through the various things you're doing in life. I sincerely wish you the best and thank you all for listening to this episode. We will see in the next episode. Cheers and take care.
Bye.
Bye.